Baba Askofu na kanisa letu, we are blessed. Mimi nimetumwa na Mheshimiwa Rais na shilingi milioni 5. 5 million. Iko wapi? Leta. I hope haitarudishwa. Leta rudone. Mkikataa mnipatie mimi mwenyewe. Baba Askofu, kuja niwapatie. Haya. Shika this. Shika. Mtoto ameenda mbio sana. Bishop amesema hatarudisha hii. Haya, si president amelipa deni. Hiyo ndio mavuno yake, amesema niwaletee. Sasa tukiongezea na ile alipeleka DEB, that day president amekuwa hapa, he has spent 10 billion in our county. 10 million in our county. Alafu huyu maku upalio kakusoko barabara. Ushindwe kabisa. Basi nataka tusindikize wale tuko tayari, kwa sababu hatukuwa tumejitayarisha kidogo tu. Bibi Baba Askofu na sindikiza Mheshimiwa Rais na shilingi 50,000. 50,000.
Policy and polity. Fanya Mambo, something has happened this morning that majority of the Catholics find unacceptable. In fact, a number of them have said that authorities have been very rude to the Catholic Church. It seems the case that wherever there is a marathon taking place in Nairobi, it takes place on Sunday, and all roads are closed. So there are very few Christians, especially of the Catholic faith, who access All Family Basilica. What would be your position on this?
I think first and foremost, everything in this country affects somebody somewhere. Some people will tend to think Sunday is not a working day, so throw in a marathon on Sunday. But it's a prayer day for many people, and it's an important day for them. So as you think about closing any road, it's good to consult. And I think it's a high time that whoever is planning marathons begins having conversations with the churches. I go to Don Bosco Upper Hill, and today church was half full, and many people are not able to access the church. So I think it is not automatic that because you don't see people on Sunday going to work that they don't go to church. They go to church. And it's a special day for them. And for some people, they live for Sunday. You know, there are people who look forward to that being their most important day of the week. So when we ruin their most important day of the week, and it's the first day of the week, it's bad. So I think it's a high time you started consulting with pastors, with priests, with bishops, and saying, Sunday is your day. Sunday is the day when people worship. What can we do about it?
Father John, is the Catholic Church docile on this matter, that your presence is being taken for granted?
Actually, we are not happy about that, because you see, as Father Mambo said, we have got thousands of...
Did you say Father Mambo?
Eh?
You said Father Mambo? Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, because he's a father of children, no? For sure. Yeah.
I just wanted to be sure.
I'm far from becoming a priest.
Yes, yeah. You know, actually, you show that you care about your people if you consult them. Because, the government is supposed to be a steward of the people. And then when you know that if I close this road, it will affect many people. And if you don't know, it means you're not a professional. So if they are planners, and I know they are planners of this activity, be it a marathon and so on, they should know today is Sunday. Many people are going to church and so on. So when they close it, they know that they're inconveniencing so many people. So it's actually natural to consult, even though we've not said anything, to consult. So that already tells you that to be sensible to the feelings of your people as a government, no? I mean, it's important. as a steward. No? So we are not docile to this, and definitely we'll talk about it to them, so that next time something could be done a better way. I mean, why do you do a marathon on Sunday morning, and in an area where people go to church, and so many people go to church, and not only Catholics, there are Anglicans and so on in that area. Yeah.
Now, Owidi, your confirmation name as a Catholic is Kevin. We've had marathons taking place in Nairobi, and today the parish priest at All Family Basilica raised a red flag, and he said the planners of these marathons don't care to consult the churches within the CBD or next to the roads, but with a lot of alacrity and rudeness, those are my words, alacrity, rudeness, they just decided to close the roads. So for instance, Fanya Mambo today, 50% turnout in the Catholic Church, Don Bosco.
You know the problem we are beginning to have with the church? They are beginning to be competing with the government, and now I can see with the people. This roadshow started, like the Standard Marathon, has been there from time immemorial. They close roads for that marathon. I have never liked it myself, but today when the church has come in, I don't know what they are talking about, but things has to be done. Many things, even when we are constructing new roads, we inconvenience people using the old road, but it has to be done. So I think it shouldn't bring so much annoyance like the one they are trying to express. It is something that has been done before. Even countries other than Kenya, we have these marathons where the roads are closed. There are times we can close a road until you go very far around when something necessary is going to happen, when something required is going to happen. You know, one time Jesus once told people that we know you are not supposed to work on a Sabbath, but when there is an emergency, like when your only cow is in a ditch, you will remove it. When it is necessary that we must have the marathon, we will have it. Inconvenience is there. People will always be inconvenienced. But if you really love God, find your way and get to church. But to come 61 years after independence, this is the time now we are thinking that having a marathon is too much to bear. We must be people who can endure pain, endure inconvenience for others. Not everybody will participate, but even those who are participating in that marathon are churchgoers. It doesn't have to be Catholic only.
You know, one may argue that Kenyans celebrate these marathons. They bring out talent. People get prizes, which is okay. But there's an element of public participation that when you're going to close a road, you must be sensitive to the stakeholders. And the worst you can do is to alert, now in this case, the churches, so that there's an announcement for their parishioners to know that, in fact, there's going to be a marathon next Sunday. Mm-hmm. So if it normally takes you 30 minutes to church, then you can plan to leave your home maybe 1.5 hours before. It's all, and I know your position on public participation is very clear, but shouldn't there be courtesy from these authorities so that the Christians don't just wake up on a Sunday morning and the roads are closed?
I think they're just being cheeky. I don't participate in that thing, but I've seen it in the papers again and again until it finally arrived. I think we are being very difficult for nothing. Like now, let me tell you what is happening in South Nyanza. In South Nyanza, all burials ceremonies are done on weekdays. Not Sunday, not Saturday, because the church doesn't want the flow of Sadaka to be interfered with. Because the church is here. It is not in that building. If there is whatever reason that you cannot go to church on a Sunday, you can pray wherever you are. I like Muslims for one thing. When it is time for prayer, even if they are in your house, they will ask for a corridor to go and pray. Even if they are in the market, they will ask for a mat and they will pray. But he yetu is too much Sadaka oriented. Until now, you see, when people bury on weekdays, some come from Mombasa to South Nyanza, some come from Nairobi. You go and bury, and then the next day there's another death and another death. When are they working? That Bible says those who do not work should not even eat. Let's work hard so that we eat. Burial is a prayer ceremony. So if you are a Catholic, bury on Saturday. If you are a Sabbath day, bury on Sunday. But you see, they have come into a cartel into saying that they will not have any burial ceremonies on Saturday or Sunday. And it's going to spread. If we don't stop them, it's going to spread throughout the country.
No, but Kevin, my recollection is that, especially in parts of Kenya where the Catholic Church is strong and the Advent is strong, the Catholics would say that if you're going to have a funeral on a Sunday, we are not showing up. The Adventists would say, if you're going to have a funeral on Saturday, we are not going to show up. So the elders sat down and decided that let's do Friday. But Fanya Mambo, Kevin here has indicated that Father John and company, their primary motivation is Sadaka. That the reason why they're complaining today about closure of roads is Sadaka. And he says he's a confirmed Catholic. His name is Kevin.
I think I'll tell you this. Waswahili huwa wanasema, muomba chumvi huombea chunguche. That if you see someone telling you I need some salt, they don't need salt because of your pot or your brother's pot. They need salt because they want to put it in their own pot. Muomba chumvi huombea chunguche. That priest was talking about Sunday because Sunday is their day. That is the day, for lack of better word, it's like a payday. If you have a shop and the best day you sell is Saturday, then you really want there to be a marathon on Saturday and roads closed on a Saturday. If these marathons were being done on Monday, I don't think you'd hear the Catholic Church complaining about it, or any other church for that matter, because very many churches were affected today. So I think it's just a question of the planners of the marathon having a conversation with some of these pastors and some of these priests and so on, and trying to ask, is it possible maybe to have the marathon on a Saturday? Or is it possible to have it on a Friday or any other day? Or how do you go about it? Or how do you even go about the road closure? And once these people feel involved, sometimes they don't complain too much. Because again, the Stanchart Marathon will not come every other Sunday. It's once a year. So out of the 53 Sundays a church has, maybe they can sacrifice one. But I think it's an issue of, in the planning, how do you involve the stakeholders? That's my take.
Father John, you're the host.
Yeah. Maybe I may say something. One, the Catholic Church did not start yesterday. We are talking about 2,000 years of existence. And we are not a small church that is trying to survive. And actually, most of those who are in the marathon are Catholics. And even those who support it or sponsor it. So it's not something that we are against it. And then also, there's this thing when something small happens, people reduce everything to that. The church is more than those things. And second, just to correct the scripture that he quoted wrongly, just to make a correction. When Jesus talked about that fellow getting the donkey that's fallen in the pit, he was actually calling the attention of the Pharisees. That is a Pharisaic thing. So it was not. It was nothing that a spiritual thing and so on, right? So also, when you quote the Bible, let's be sure what you're talking about, because somebody else now, if he watches this, he look at what was saying and finds it's not the case. So also, I think it's also good when you talk about the church, we need to understand also the issues of burial on Saturdays. There is a reason for that thing. Why we bury on Saturday? We didn't just wake up, no? That say this thing, there's nothing coming up, no? If anything, the church has been there for, as I say, 2,000 years, so there's nothing coming up. It's a tradition that we found it and we shall leave it there, no? So I think it's important, when you talk about public participation, it's the same government that talks about public participation. Let's not get used to double language, that I can decide to say this and say the other thing. It's just a matter of saying, look, we know you guys you have mass on Sunday and so on, you're having a marathon, no? So we'll not even say no. But there's nothing wrong to speak to the stakeholders, no? There's nothing wrong about that. You're not asking any permission. Also, at the same time, I don't think that the government wants to show now we are the one in charge, so whether you like it or not, we'll do the marathon. I don't think that's what the government wants to do. Okay. So just to speak to the stakeholders doesn't do any harm.
Okay. Now, Kevin.
I want to hear this. There was a marathon today. I've just arrived from Kisumu, so I didn't experience it. Mm-hmm. There was a marathon today. Is it the annual standard marathon? Was it the annual standard chartered marathon?
The clergy just complained a marathon. They did not want to be
Where
specific.
does the government come in all this?
Kenya that are close the road is
Accuse the government. What happened? The presiding priest just said that today we have a marathon, and because of this marathon, the church is half empty. People have not been able to make it to church. And he said next time they plan a marathon, whoever they are, let them at least be considerate. And he asked, must it always be on a Sunday? So he did not come and say, I know you protect the president very much. He did not mention the president today.
No, I'm talking about...
He did not mention Buddha as well.
Talked as if it is the government.
No, he did not. He just said whoever planned the marathon is grossly affecting Sunday services. And they need to rethink how they did it. So whether it was your president, if he was involved, you can tell us. But if it is not him, then he was not mentioned.
You know, Fanya Mambo, if you say, must it be a Sunday, when else would it be?
I don't know. I was not affected. I got to church.
This country has only, or not even the country, 5 working days. Because the governments all over the world are trying to accommodate the church. In fact, sooner or later, the weekend will be 3 days, including Friday. And people must work. Because Islam is growing very highly in Kenya. And soon we'll have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And this thing of, I didn't say we are burying on Saturday. In South Nyanza, I told you, no burial on Saturday and on Sunday. Because the churches don't want it. You know, when I was growing up, we used to go to church every Sunday in the morning and leave just before midday. But in our heads, we knew that was a rest day. It is the day for God. And we would go to church, pray, confess, and finish everything, and we would do the rest on that day. The other days are days for working, production, not consumption. So that is what must remain. But if you want to suggest that if anything is to be done, it has to be done on a working day. Soon we'll have very many things to be done, and we'll not have any working day in this country. There's a very prosperous country in this world called China. They pray, those who can pray. They are atheists, those who can be. But it's a very prosperous country. So let's pray. God does not have a register that he marks. Today, Fanya Mambo alikuja, today he didn't come. No. God leaves you. You know, in the book of Galatians, it is said that in those old days, we used to go by those things of Moses. What were they called? Those 10 commandments. These days, it is the Holy Spirit. That is Galatians chapter 5, verse 19. So it counts all those things and says, to this, there is no rules. It is the Holy Spirit which will guide you. That is now Jesus. We are Christians. We are no longer those guys of Moses and the rest. So let us not be too much on rules. Let us do what is possible, and what is impossible we leave. Even the priests themselves cannot go to church every day 52 times a year. There must be a day. I have met those priests somewhere attending a church service or a function on a Sunday when the church is remaining there. So when we have some other churchgoers not going to church because they are attending the Standard Marathon or they are blocked on the road, that is beyond them to control. They cannot control it.
Now, Kevin, that leads us to the next topic about the 4 estates. In the old medieval European society, we had the first, second, third, and fourth. The first one was the clergy. And we've had a number of religious leaders saying they want to join the government. So church leaders want to join the government. A number of them have joined, like Bishop Oginde is at EACC. A number of these leaders have accused the president that he promised to accommodate them. What would be your view about religious leaders or church leaders joining the administration? And if they join the administration, do they lose their capacity to criticize the administration?
That's a beautiful question I've always wanted to handle in this country.
There it is.
The people who are trying to split government from church and church from government are the church people themselves. They are the ones who come to declare that no, we don't want politicians in church, we don't want politics in church, we don't want. But when God was appointing Moses to lead his people, he did not define his role as church or government. He was everything. And that very God is the one who asked Samuel to anoint Saul to lead his people. And that is the church appointing government. And that very church, still led by Samuel, anointed David. But now we are being told not to bring politics in church. From where I sit and from that alone, I expect the church and the church leaders to determine who leads the government. And I also expect, like David did, of helping build the first temple that was later built by his son Solomon, to the government to help build churches, like President William Ruto was trying to do in Kayole and everywhere else. That is what is in the Bible. It's not my creation. It is not my creation that David collected all the resources that built the temple for God. It is not my creation that it is the church that anointed the first kings of Israel. It is not my creation, it is. So why don't we copy that and say, let's put church and government together? And you remember, there was a man called Jethro. Jethro was the father-in-law to Moses. What did he do? He is the one who taught Moses what kind of leaders to elect for the people. And at that point in time, the leaders for the people were never separated. These ones are church and this one are government. It was leaders for the people. So let the church come and accept to work with the government. In fact, the government is very good because each time they have a function, they bring church leaders to come and pray. But the church leaders do not want the government leaders to come and talk in their churches. It is them who are splitting people. The Bible also says separation is a sin. Kugawa watu ni dhambi. Hiyo imeandikwa kwa Biblia. So let us be clear. Let us not choose the parts of the Bible that favor us and the parts that don't favor us we don't want. And I think the church must also deal with their appetite for money. Thank you.
Now, Kevin, talking about money and people's appetites, President Ruto a few weeks ago gave 5 million to the Catholic Church. In Soweto, Archbishop Anyolo said, thanks, it was nice doing business. He said we are returning the resources. Now, today there's a clip on social media, and I hope it's not AI generated, that Governor Lusaka in Bungoma has presented a donation of 5 million. And when he was giving the presentation, he said, I hope you don't return it. And I think one of his assistants carried a bag full of 5 million Kenyan shillings.
No, I think this thing of President William Ruto's money being returned is not to the Catholic churches. It is Anyolo's. This is the same Anyolo we gave a Pajero and returned. Anyolo has a problem with President William Ruto. They can sort it outside the public. He can't come with his issues with the president in public. Because that very church should have understood Anyolo more than President William Ruto did. But it is that very church that asked President William Ruto for help. And when he gave help, Anyolo comes back and returns it. Does it mean that Anyolo has rules separate from the one the people below him have?
Now, Father John, Archbishop Anyolo's action, is it Archbishop Anyolo or is the Kenya Conference of the Catholic Bishops that has taken a position? And then what do you make of the donation by Governor Lusaka of 5 million to the Anglican Church in Bungoma?
The position of Archbishop Anyolo is the position of the Catholic Church. And I can say it very clearly, when that money was presented on Sunday, there was a lot of tension in our walls, our corridors. And it was we were saying, look, just please return that money. No? And that was around between Monday and Tuesday, just before the letter was written. So that is something that the Catholic Church decided. When Bishop speaks, there's been so many consultations. Otherwise, if it was him, he could have done it on Sunday. But the letter came on a Wednesday, I think, around there. Why on a Wednesday? There was a lot of talking going around. So it was not just Anyolo woke up and said no. No. A lot of consultation normally happen, and very quickly, because we've got a good network. No? Now then there was the other question that you are...
First of all, just in the interest of clarity,
yes,
there's a suggestion here that Archbishop Anyolo may be having personal issues with President Ruto, that his actions are not anchored in the Catholic Church, in the leadership of the Catholic Church in Nairobi, that is making pronouncements out of his own motion. That is number one. Then number two, Governor Lusaka today in that clip, it appears that he made a donation on behalf of President Ruto of 5 million, and even quipped that I hope you don't return it.
Yes. Yeah, you see, the time when was this famous Pajero that he returned in Kisumu, no? That time President Ruto was the deputy president. No? That time, if someone who is under a lot of public controversy, you are a public figure as a church, and you listen to your people, you listen to what people. So the fact that he said no, it was not just his decision, it was a decision taken in common and accepted in common, Now about what happened in Bungoma, that you see, one of the games which are going on, political games which are going on, and which I think I'll tell the government people, it doesn't make any sense. One thing, you cannot fight the church. The church was there way before these guys came to government, and they leave it there, by the way. So it's a waste of time to do that. And then as Bishop Wanyolo said yesterday, we don't compete with anyone. We don't play politics. We're not here to compete. He put it very clearly. We don't look for votes. We don't do that. So we don't do campaigns and so on. So we don't compete with any government. So there's no need to be reactive to this, because that is just the way we believe in. And at the end of the day, I have a right to reject your money. I have a right to reject something. So why all this problem, no? So what I should say is the church stands by what it believes. Now the other thing is, when people decide to quote the Bible, if you want to live by the Bible, just live by the Bible. I normally feel very pained when I hear politicians quoting the Bible and they exactly live the opposite.
So as Kevin pained you, he's been quoting the Bible.
No, he has reminded me, I'm not talking about Kevin.
Okay.
He has just reminded me of some guys. Someone quotes Isaiah, Galatians, whatever it is, But look at their lives, some of them, They walk with the Bible. Look at what they do, Because if these people really were following the Bible, we would not be having issues of corruption. The Gen Zs would not have gone on the streets. I mean, all these things are wrong because there is something wrong somewhere. So you cannot tell me that you live by the Bible, you quote the Bible, and then so who is the one causing all these problems?
Okay, Fanya Mambo, Archbishop Muheria at some stage was a member of the Judicial Service Commission, and he resigned his position because he said that his role as a leader in the Catholic Church, as a priest, is not compatible with that position. But we've had other people like Bishop Oginde and also Bishop Weboootsa. They were at EACC. And Mtava Msimi as well, yeah. So do you think that if a church or a religious leader joins the administration, then his capacity to deliver is compromised?
I'll start with where you've ended. He felt that his stay there is not compatible with what was going on. If you read the president's appointment letter for Kindiki, it speaks of having consulted IEBC and EACC and having gotten clearance from the two. Now, Kindiki was impeached at around 11 in the night.
Kindiki?
No, sorry, Rigathi was impeached at around 11 in the night. By 8 in the morning, we had an appointment letter for Kindiki that speaks of him having been cleared by EACC. EACC worked at night. Oginde should have woken up and said, wait a minute, my EACC does not work past 11 in the night. And my EACC did not clear these people past 11 in the night. How you read? Because then the only other recourse would have been that the president may have appointed Kindiki before the impeachment of Rigathi and maybe consulted Oginde. And maybe Oginde would have cleared Kindiki before. So it makes no sense, absolutely, that the things EACC is doing are the same things that IEBC is doing. IEBC without commissioners can clear Kindiki, but IEBC without commissioners cannot hold by-elections in this country. So it's a lot of nonsense. And that's why I'm happy that he said no. I'm happy that Muheria looked and said, some of the things that this judiciary is doing will at one point be imputable to me or the church that I come from. Because we cannot accept, some of the decisions that are made by that judiciary, even look at them as someone who's never even been, now forget law school, any school, and you're like, this cannot be justice, this cannot be law, this cannot be legal, this cannot be proper, it cannot be okay. And so the fact that this bishop has recused for himself, he's recusing himself from nonsense. You don't want to be privy to this kind of shenanigans where somebody is impeached at 11 in the night and by 8 in the morning there's a media circular and everybody is being told that EACC led by Oginde has cleared a guide in the course of the night. Where does EACC work at night? Were they not so expeditious? Why didn't they work at night to tell us that Adani was bad, for example? They worked so well at night to clear Kindiki, but they did not work at night to tell us that Adani was not good for this country. And this is EACC, supposed to check on corruption and all. It had to take Americans for them to tell us that Adani is bad. So it is good that they refused. I like our good friend when he tells us that politics should not be separated from church. I say, let us not have a mix of the two. For anybody who's been to the Catholic Church, you go to the Catholic Church and look at our elections. To be honest, our elections have been very tribal. You could almost bet that many people from Nyanza would vote for ODM. You could almost bet that many people from Mount Kenya would have voted for that time. Remember when Uhuru was vying and Raila was vying? I mean, 9 out of 10 Kikuyus, if you met them in a church, are going to vote for Uhuru. And they were saying Raila is bad, and by the way, he's never done anything to them. And then if you found 9 out of 10 Luos at the same time, they were going to vote for Raila if the election was to be held the following week. And that has been the trend in this country. Now, if you put those people in the same country, and then Uhuru comes to the pulpit and tries to say how ODM is bad, and we let him get away, how does that leave the people in that church feeling who support Raila Odinga? Or Raila is given an opportunity to come to church. And you remember they used to call each other names, Baka Kemodo Kegoroki. I remember Rigathi Gachagua was impeached. And by the way, I've always told you I didn't like him anyway. And at one point, he stood at a church at the altar and said, if I ever shake Raila Odinga's hand, I'm going to remove my underwear and put it on the head. And he said that in Kikuyu. And it's on record. That was said at the altar. Why do we want to allow people who speak so carelessly, like our politicians, who are not measured in thought or word, to come and speak and actually they spoil the altar. They spoil because they say very divisive things. I have not seen politicians who come to the altar, many times especially close to campaigns, and refuse to say bad things about the other one. Finally, about Bishop Nyolo refusing the car. Number one, is there a law that says that you must accept a gift? So you're coming and saying, I am giving you a gift, you must accept. I can buy my daughter something and she tells me she doesn't like it. Why are you the first person to be angry when I say I don't want your car? Who asked you for it anyway? Why are you bringing me a Pajero? Maybe I wanted a Nissan March. You should have asked me, why did you bring me a big car? I don't want your car. I have a right to refuse your car. Go take it to those people who need a car. By the way, you're forgetting this was at a backdrop when the famous Aurora and Kim Aror were happening. And they were being imputable to the same person who was bringing these cars. And so there was all that furor that has never been cleared to date. And what is the standard? Julius Caesar's wife. The fact that his wife was suspected of having an affair for Julius Caesar was enough for him to leave her. And that's the standard of the church. The fact that people are saying you've stolen damn money, the fact that people are saying you've taken land that belongs to a school and brought down a wall, and by the way, I am happy to announce on this show that there was a judgment to that effect, na mtu anataka kunipeleka kotini anipeleke, that said that that hotel is on public land, and they were therefore trying to find a negotiation to find a way for the hotel to start compensating the public.
So you're exposing yourself to
the thing
litigation.
is, here you are, mumevunja ukuta ya shule ya watoto. Your reputation is not acceptable. So when we receive gifts from you, we are condoning all those things that you have formed, which are atrocious. They are bad, they are horrible. When you are doing affordable housing and looking for public land to build them, I had always submitted. Why don't we are looking for public land? We start with Weston. We are bringing down houses for the poor to build affordable houses. Why don't we bring down Weston and build houses there, because it's also public land? And it is the court that has pronounced itself on it. And it actually, Weston is now in a negotiation to see if they can start paying back. So when you give me a gift, and I have reason to believe that the public is not happy with some of the things that you've done in the past, then I have a right to refuse your gift. Sometimes we are always complaining about the recipient of the gift. When shall we start having a conversation about the giver of the gift? When shall the giver of the gift ask themselves, am I a problem? Is there something wrong with me? Do I need to adjust my ways? Do I need to behave differently? The giver of the gift is always excused from having a conversation about him. Let us open a conversation about the giver of the gift and ask. I told you many times, because you mentioned Gen Zs, we are always saying, oh, they are on the streets, oh, they are doing bad things. Why don't we want to have a conversation about the person causing them to go on the streets and the reason that they are going to the streets? So this is where we are. The giver of the gift. Let's have a conversation about the giver of the gift and let's ask them ourselves, are they in that place where they feel that this money, they would literally hold a Bible and say, I swear in the name of the living God, no coin of these 4 million shillings or 5 million or whatever that was used to buy this Pajero is stolen money. If they can do that, then the gift will be accepted by the church. But if they are not able to hold that Bible and swear in broad daylight before the church and say, no coin of this car has come from corruption, then we'll accept the gift.
You made serious allegations around corruption and stealing. I'm not sure whether Kevin would be associated with that. And in case you get into trouble, we'll be happy to do a mchanga for you.
Let me tell you, today, because the Western case has a court case and it has a number, go and read the judgment. It proclaimed that as public land. It's a judgment of the court. So if somebody wants to take me somewhere, I'll tell them, first you have to beat the court up and arrest the court and put it in a Subaru and take it to an unknown location in Kajiado for pronouncing itself on Western Hotel.
Okay, before Kevin comes in, let's go back to Archbishop Mueria for a second. In leadership and management, they say that if you want to implement effective change, you can actually get inside the tent in a leadership position and cause the change. So one can argue that Archbishop Mueria was given this golden chance to be a member of the Judicial Service Commission and occasion change in Kenya's judiciary, and he did a runner that he ran from responsibility. That all the issues the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops is complaining about around the judiciary and the entire spectrum, he had this unique opportunity to implement changes. Maybe the kitchen became hot and it disappeared.
I'll tell you why. You see, you're forgetting one thing. We have an administration that does what they want to do, and they don't listen to Kenyans. They want finance bill, they'll kill you to pass it. And they've proven it. They want to remove Riggy G, they have confessed how much they spent to remove him. Okay? They want to have meetings in Mount Kenya, they are calling peace cover, they will do it. So why do you want to be in a place where people do not listen? You know, if you had they want Adani, they will force it down your throat until the Americans say that Adani is bad. And that's what they were doing here with our friend Owidi. He kept telling us how Adani is good. We shall take it like paracetamol, 1, 2, 3, 1 per day. We will take it. Until you get to a place where you feel that you have an administration that listens, please don't waste your energy. If this was the kind of administration that used to say, wait a minute, Kenyans are saying finance bill is bad, let's have a conversation. But what do? They send guns and bullets. You come and tell them we don't want something, they force their way. You come and they go for public participation. People tell them removing Riggy G is not our priority right now. We have bigger problems in the country. What do? They impeach him even at night. They work so expeditiously. Gazette notices are done in a way that we have never seen since independence. And then you come and tell me that's administration you want to work with. What you do is you tell them, you know what? Get someone who fits the bill. And there are many. By the way, if you're looking for someone who will do what Kenya Kwanza wants without asking questions, there are so many. You just need to go outside and ask, who is willing to work for a salary without being questioned and without asking questions and without the advice being taken? You'll get very many. But Bishop Mueria does not fit the bill. So he recuses himself and says, you know what? There are 53 million Kenyans. Get one.
So Fanya Mambo, I see Kevin is taking coffee. Fanya Mambo, if you're given a role today in this administration, you will not take it.
Oh, Yanini, what for? Let me tell you, Kenya. I want to serve my country. I would love to come into a position and serve this country. The problem is, when we look at the people at the top, are they willing to give new brains an opportunity to do things differently and to do the right things? Are they willing to listen to someone who will tell them, don't go to Adani? But then before we are done with Adani, they want to bring vaccines here that we've not asked for. And we know where those vaccines are coming from and who is behind. Well, ngoja ile kitu inakuja in a load. They want to vaccinate all our cows and we know who is bringing that nonsense to this country. So they have serious depths of bad. Kenya Kwanza administration, you think they've done bad. They take you to another depth of bad. You're like, wait a minute. We're not even recovered from this. They have serious depths of bad and huge reserves of getting to bad. That every time you get to bad, they take you deeper and deeper and deeper. And before you can bring them back to where humanity is, they have another horrible idea. That's why, for some of us, we say, you know what? We would love to serve our country. But if these are going to the people at the top we are reporting to, it's never going to work.
Kevin.
Wow, those things are so many, I don't even know.
Start from the beginning.
You know, Fanya Mambo said that when the money was given, there was a lot of tension in the corridor. The tension was not due to the money being given. The tension was due to the fact that the Catholic Church is compromised. At the time Muheria was taking the position, what has changed now? What has changed is now they have been compromised. Then he was himself. That is why he has... Why did he take it in the very first place? He took it because then it was okay. But now they have been compromised. In fact, when I saw him, the Catholic bishops called a press conference and Muheria did not speak, I could feel the guilt in him right at my doorstep. Anyway, he also said that, I think it was Anyolo who said, I am not competing with anybody in politics. He's competing for the attention of the people. The church and the politicians are competing for the attention of the same people. And that is the problem. In fact, that is why they don't want to hear any politics in church. But they are very fortunate that the government doesn't mind church speaking at their functions. So that idea, and all along, you were talking about why should church people take positions in government. I want to tell them it is the church that was advising leaders from the time of King David. It was Nathan who advised King David just what the Lord told him the next day, that he just goes ahead to do what his heart has said because that is what God wants. That was the church advising the government. And that is the Bible, not written by me. Let us not separate people because of church and government. When you are saying that Ruto got advice from EACC and IBC at night, Ruto is a human being, and in his head he knows who he would want to be president, to be deputy president after Rigathi goes. He did not tell us at what time he consulted them. So don't say it was at night. He may have even consulted them at the time when he was picking Riggy G. He had considered IBC, and he was told between Riggy G and Kindiki, both of them qualify to be deputy president and subsequently the president. So President William Ruto did not tell you when he did this. So don't start saying, even when even the EACC, he could have consulted them 2 days earlier because it was clear that Riggy G had broken the law and he would go. Anyolo is captured by the Mount Kenya cartel in the Catholic Church. That is something I've avoided saying in this place. Today I have to say it. And he was elected because they accepted that he be elected. I've seen this in Law Society, I've seen in ISPAC. When you want to get elected, you must pledge loyalty to the large voting blocks. One of them is Mount Kenya, the other one is Ziwa, the other one is Coast. So Anyolo got his election to be here because the Mount Kenya accepted it, and he has to remain loyal to it to the extent of even going down his knees and doing what they want to be done. When they were compromised by the axis that attempted coup against president using the so-called non-existent Gen Zs, then they think they can now colonize everybody. I don't want to talk about what Riggy G said at the altar. It is not necessary. But when you said there is no law that a gift must be expected, usirudishe hii argument chini sana. The whole idea, gifts are supposed to be surprises. I don't have to come and tell you, I'll bring for you a new shirt like the one I hear you like. No, I'll just bring and give you the surprise. Yeah. So what President William Ruto did when he was DP was to surprise the church with a gift. But because Anyolo has a vendetta with him, he rejected it. And this time, even when nobody wanted to talk about it, he came again and rejected it. But you see, you are also saying that, oh, this government will always do what they want, whether the people say yes or no. Do you know, towards the election of 2017, President Uhuru Kenyatta, while leading Jubilee as the party leader, forced through parliament a legislation that changed the election laws when the elections were underway. And the Catholic Church was there, they said nothing. And you and your people were there and you said nothing. The whole thing now is there are people in this country who think if it is not them, then it is no one. What we must accept, Kenya is big and it is enough for all of us. And we must share all the resources of this country equally and equitably. And that includes the presidency. Let me tell you, there is no time in this country the Mount Kenya has been out of the presidency. Either they are the president or the deputy president. They must accept that other Kenyans can also hold that position well. It is not this idea that when it is not them, you know, I have told you in this forum before that Gen Z revolution, Gen Z attempted coup was planned, organized, funded, and then a small group set out to start it. The rest were joining, thinking it was an organic movement. It was an organic idea. No, they were getting into a trap. It is just like taking 10 people to a function and say, when you hear the bishop begin to speak, heckle him. The rest will join him, thinking it was organic, it was natural, when it was actually planned and done. Where is the Gen Z now? They are not there because the financiers have gone to bed, have gone to sleep.
Kevin,
yes.
Your statement around the presidency going to get you an invitation by the National Cohesion Commission.
I will tell them it should even be in law. Why is affirmative action not getting me invited there? Affirmative action. See, is that also?
I'm just trying to project your interest.
No.
There's no interest here.
No. We must share resources of this country equitably. Why I'm saying so, the very things Kibaki and Uhuru got away with, even before Ruto attempts to do them, they are already hitting the roof. Even this Adani thing, let me tell you, when President William Ruto agreed that we are going to give Adani this contract, he also said, do due diligence. As due diligence was going on, people were already saying, oh, Adani is this, Adani is that. Which government is going to make its decisions based on hearsay, based on newspaper cuttings, based on newspaper reports and online things? If you go online today, and Google my name, you will find that Odoyo Owidi is that man in Kibera who took the Kikuyu houses there. It was written by a blogger. It is still there today. And I don't even have a kiosk there, mine or taken from anybody. But it is there. Somebody reading it from South Africa will think I am a very bad man. Because everybody, including Adani, has enemies. And something I've avoided saying here is now, a businessman is the president of the United States. His best friend is also another businessman who is an opponent in the business of Adani. So when Adani is charged in the US, I understand where it's coming from. So I am not saying that Adani is clean. No organization, no person, no company is clean. But for President Ruto to look at the report he gets from international partners and act on it, is the best thing a reasonable president can do. Because you tell me that, the car was rejected because of the Aurora and Kimorer. How much land does the Kenyatta family have? But they keep donating to church and they gleefully clap for him. They clap for him and they have land enough to feed all the Turkanas, one family. And you don't think that land was taken illegally. You don't think that land was taken corruptly. You clap. You are happy. But you come here telling us that, William Ruto, sijui that hotel there, sijui. Let us be fair to everyone. Let us judge everyone in this country using the same yardstick.
Father John, my understanding is that Archbishop Anyolo was appointed by the Pope. There is no election for a bishop in Kenya or an archbishop. But Kevin seems to suggest that Archbishop Anyolo is behaving in a certain manner because of an election.
Yeah, one thing to clarify is that Anyolo was not elected because we don't elect bishops in Kenya. Bishops are appointed. No, first they are consecrated, then they are installed. So Anyolo was installed as Bishop of Nairobi by the Pope. So there's no
Archbishop.
The Archbishop Anyolo, yes. So there's no business of central people and so on. That doesn't apply in the Catholic Church. Second, we don't say things because they are popular. We say them because they are right. So it doesn't matter how many people would oppose. I mean, we have the word of God. Now, and he gave an example of Prophet Nathan, which I want to use. Prophet Nathan did not have to become a prime minister to correct or to advise the king. He was not in government. And he used a very nice word to advise. Now, if you tell us we are supposed to advise the government, and when we advise you, you jump, so what do you want us to do? And the other thing is the church will keep on playing a prophetic role. We have our own mistakes that we make. We have got, but you cannot say that because we make mistakes, now we cannot play the prophetic role. And also the other thing is, once something is clear, once our bishops have some clear information, they act on it. The very fact that the car was rejected in Kisumu that time was because there was clear information that this car could not come from the rightful proceedings. Secondly, I mean, another thing is that two wrongs can never make a right. So you cannot say that because we did not say anything in the time of Uhuru Kenyatta, so you should not say anything in the time of Ruto and so on. No. And also that doesn't mean that Uhuru Kenyatta was perfect. Absolutely not. So the issue here is this is the stand that we shall keep taking, because we cannot accept what is wrong. Now, about Bishop Muheria. Bishop Muheria plays a better role where he is now than he could have been when he was in the JSC. And actually, it was good that he had to give up that thing. So, and then we don't need to be brought to government so that we are able to say what we need to say. That's called rewarding, So even where he is as an archbishop, he's able to point out what he would have done when he was there. Then, and I'll say again, people say things about the church. Just do some little bit of research. And I was saying the other time, quote something. When you say that with your sadaka, quote a policy that it's not fair to say something which is not true, by the way. So it's important to quote something, your policy on this, your policy on that, your policy on the other thing. About church and politics, the church is not against the clergy getting into politics. What the church is against is the clergy being partisan. I mean, I can be allowed as a clergy to go to political activities, but I cannot be allowed to become a politician or to belong to a certain party or to start, because this party brings division and so on.
But wait a minute, does the Catholic Church have elected members of political parties in other countries?
Now, in other countries, what happened? I give an example of South America because I was there. There was a need because the Catholic Church saw that there was a need to stand by people who are being oppressed by very oppressive regimes. I mean, what is happening here is nothing compared to what we had in South America some years ago. So the Catholic Church stood by them, and they gave their advice and so on, and they proposed some leaders. But you see, there was a particular environment which is not the one that we have it here in Kenya and so on. So we cannot say because we elected leader. Okay, I give you an example just near in Uganda. The Democratic Party, the DP, the Semogere, that thing was formed in a parish, right? Now, that was because the ideas were there are some Catholic scholars, there are some priests who were there and so on. But then, it was not the party of the church. Semogere was very close to the church. He was coming to visit our missions and so on. But that is not what we should do. So, yes, we should take part in political activities. Yes, we should discuss politics. But no, we should not be partisan. No?
Okay. Yeah. Fanya, if you could wrap that part of the conversation.
It's very simple. Number one, my good friend Owidi sometimes speaks of the Catholic Church as the only church that is having a problem with the head of state. His own church in Karen, and they know the one I'm speaking about, the leader of that church came out very strongly and said, no, I have every problem with these people, and it's going to take a lot of convincing. And she was very clear, Werimo Nelson, what she thinks and feels about her own person who attends her own church. Yeah? And she said things about this administration, and she was very clear. So it's not the Catholic Church. Again, I go back to, it is the person being spoken about. You know, the minute you hear a Presbyterian, let me tell you, if you are selling your phone and somebody comes from Kisumu and offers you 5,000, another one comes from Malindi offers you 4,500, another one comes from Thika offers you 4,800, it tells you, because these people are not in consultation with one another, that the value of your phone is around there. When you hear even Werimo Nelson speaking that passionately and strongly against this administration and saying the things she said, and the Catholic Church and the Presbyterian Church and the Anglican Church, and the independent church doesn't have a problem as long as you take money to them. Walisema ile kitu wanaweza rudisha ni shukrani peke yake. And I understand where they are coming from, because their pulpits have been used to say all manner of things, and they never come and condemn them. When someone comes to your pulpit as an independent church and talks so badly of another Kenyan at your pulpit, as a bishop, the least you can do is say, no, those words are not acceptable, they are not church words. But you cannot come and say as a Christian that hata siwezi salimia huyo mtu. Christianity is supposed to be a language of, we disagreed with so and so, but I want to shake their hand. I want to work with them. Or at least I want them to give me space to work. But you can't come and say, if I shake their hand, I'm going to remove this one and put it on the head and people clap. And you can see when the bishop behind there is clapping. You know, the good thing with cameras, they capture all these things. And so this is the kind of nonsense that should not be acceptable. So the person being spoken about needs to take a very deep journey into themselves and ask themselves, why is the Presbyterian Church, the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, even my own church, FEM, having a problem with me? Then I must be the problem. I cannot be blaming every other person for being the problem. I must be the problem. And that, let me tell you, even when you are sick, yeah, when you have cancer, when you have HIV, when you have whatever, we are told that the first journey towards healing is to accept that you are sick. We have an administration that is not accepting that it is sick. And if the administration is not accepting that, it will never be cured, it will never be helped, it will never be advised, it will never be helped. They have to start and say, wait a minute, I accept I have a problem. And then now I start the journey of healing. As long as they are in denial that they have a problem, and they keep pointing fingers at every other person is bad, and crushing every other person they think is bad, then how are we going to help them? They'll end up there just banging their own chest and not accepting that the first thing towards healing as a person, whenever you have cancer or any other terminal illness, is to accept that you are sick. Now, Mount Kenya being entitled to leadership, Saitoti was not Mount Kenya. And
Kinuthia.
Sisi tunajua ni Masai. Sisi tunajua ni Masai. But it's okay. Gen Z revolution. I'll just tell again your administration things that Riggy G told us when he was in government. And again, I've always said he's not my friend, but sometimes he speaks the truth. Let me tell you. Even a bad clock does indicate the correct time twice a day. So even if Riggy G was bad, sometimes he said right things twice a day. And one of them is he told us that the intelligence was not working very well. And it is true, because Maura tells us the Russians are funding the Gen Zs. He's part of this government. The president comes and says it's Ford Foundation. And then they come and say all manner of things, including Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. We had all sorts of things. If we had a coherent working intelligence in this country, would have had one answer. But the number of answers we got about who was funding Gen Z and where they were coming from were too many, too scattered, and spoken in very many different tones. That's why I keep saying they have no idea who Gen Zs are. They're saying Gen Zs are gone. Let me tell you, Gen Zs have not gone. What these people don't understand, that every creature in this life, even the bear, have a hibernation period. A period when you realize this is not the time to fight with the elements. And these are primitive things. They know it is winter. Imagine, they're not human beings, but they are primitive in the way they were created, but they know it's winter. It's a period to not fight with the agents. It's a period to hibernate. And they hibernate. And when the right season comes, Animals don't mate throughout. They don't fight throughout. They don't exchange throughout. In their primitivity, animals know that there are seasons to hibernate, there are seasons to give birth, there are seasons to lay eggs. The Gen Zs are right now in hibernation. But even in their hibernation, their fight has taken such a serious twist. Right now, there are small black memes that have been drawn everywhere. Those memes are so many, they are coming every other day, and they are painful to look at for government. They are looking at them and say, this picture depicts us so well. And I can tell you, that is a revolution in its own way. They are attending church, they are attending functions. The other day, there was a graduation at JKUAT, and somebody comes with a speech trying to say the president, and they said, what? Ruto must go. That was a graduation. Let me tell you, there are many ways of saying no. You come with your guns and bullets and everything, but Gen Zs are saying no to you in ways that you cannot fight them with guns and bullets. They will wait, you come to a wedding, they tell you Ruto must go. They'll wait, any opportunity they are getting, even a bar when they are drinking, yeah? DJ akifanya chiki chiki chiki, wanasema wait, Ruto must go, and they start singing. So if they are waiting for Gen Zs to come to the streets for them to know that Gen Zs are out there and they are protesting, then they are wrong. Most finally, let me tell you, as you think about these people who are called Gen Zs, today they are still on X Spaces. You know, these people think that for you to have a revolution, and that's where they go wrong. You remember the 205 referendum, where Kina Raila used to go with vehicles mounted with speakers, wanafanya mkutano Narok. Wanatoka Narok, wanafanya mkutano ingine. A revolution mobilized young people to the streets without such meetings. What am I trying to tell you? Today they are meeting 90,000 people on X. These people are telling you, oh, wezi jaza stadium, hata ukiita watu wezi jaa Kamukunji. It is true. They won't come. But you know what? I am having, mimi Fanya Mambo, I am having 50,000 people on an X space if I wanted to have a meeting with them. What am I telling you? I am feeling Kasarani from the comfort of my house. And I am feeling 50,000 people with ideas that I believe are my own, and they are accepting and they are buying and they are moving. The election of 2027 will have people on the ballot, and votes will be counted, and you'll say, wait a minute. We never saw this guy in stadiums. We never saw these guys. And guess what? Those people will be elected because we are pushing our agenda in a medium that this generation is not ready for. Kwa hivyo kama mnatungojea kwa streets, we are sorry. You may not find us on the streets, we are hibernating. But the revolution that is baking in this country, when people mobilize themselves and say we are waking up to vote on a particular day, you'll wake up in the morning, you've been having rallies. You're wondering people who had no rallies are filling ballot boxes. Na zikianza kuhesabiwa, things are not making sense. We are in 2024. There's a senator who just shook somebody's hand. The next thing we knew, what was the senator doing? AI is here. Aki generation itashangaa. Ngoja.
Now, Kevin, before, as you respond to that, I'm sure when you drive around Kenya, okay, most of the time you fly, but if you drive around Kenya, you'll find say a latrine with a politician's logo. You'll see a bridge with a politician's logo. Now, all elected leaders in Kenya, save for the president and the deputy, you're talking about MCAs and governors, they use taxpayers' resources to put up a bridge, and then they plaster their face. They use taxpayers' resources to put up a school, then they plaster a face. Is that acceptable?
It is not acceptable, but they believe it nevertheless. In fact, if you want to do any research on that, come to Homa Bay. Homa Bay is where you will find a very large billboard with the governor's name and photo. Nice photo with the lipstick and everything. But the message is a small line here that tomorrow we are going to have a homecoming for the governor. And that is taxpayers' money. You find a road with a big billboard that is being done by the county government. But that road, even a motorcycle cannot pass, let alone a vehicle. But they are using public resources to campaign for themselves. So that one, I think we need to deal with it.
How are we going to deal with this?
I think we just need to have a policy, but most of all, the public needs to come out and tell them off. You know, it has reached a level, but that the only people who have resources to talk to the people repeatedly are those elected people. In fact, in this country, the biggest career has become politics. It's only politicians who have money. And you can't even compete them if you're out. And they make sure you out there, you do not get enough resources to compete with them.
Now Kevin, the tragedy with this is that a project would probably cost, say, 10 million, but the cost of launching the project is 50 million. The cost of branding, the cost of photography, the cost of all the razzmatazz. So as part of this administration, are you going to tell us that let's wait for a policy, or you'll proactively come up with a policy?
No. Actually, the national government is launching projects at relatively good costs. I once saw during the last parliamentary term, in Homa Bay, there were some students who were taken to train at NITA. When they came back, an elaborate ceremony was launched that it was clear it costed more than even what was used to train them. And the worst thing is that only one toolbox was bought to be given to them as gifts for having completed the game. So you bring a toolbox, take one spanner, give one person another one. That time, some leaders have been paid for air tickets to come and attend that ceremony, where people who graduated from NITA are being wanatuzwa. So those are some of the problems that only clear-headed people must come and call them off and tell them you are wasting public resources. Recently, you saw in Homa Bay, we had a ceremony where our governor was doing a homecoming for having been appointed acting chair. And if you look at how elaborate that ceremony was, you wonder why public projects are not launched in such elaborate ceremonies.
Who is the Homa Bay governor?
Homa Bay governor, I think you do know. Homa Bay governor is Governor Gladys Wanga. Yes. So let's get out of there. Let's go back to the mainstream. You are telling me that when I drive out the country, today, do you know I drove from Kisumu to here, not to miss this show. There is no flight. In fact, that is something we need to talk about. Today, to go to Kisumu, you have to book minimum 3 days in advance. Otherwise, you don't get a ticket. So if you want to go as an emergency tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, you will not get a ticket, a flight. And then coming back, also no flight. So I think we'll talk to the CS for transport. If the service providers don't want, they can tell us. Let's see a few things. He told me that Anyolo was not, I know he was not elected, but they are recommended. There's a time Uhuru gazetted me as the chairman of Lake Basin Development Authority. When he was asked who is Owidi, he didn't know who Owidi is. The bishop did not know Anyolo that well. He was recommended and he appointed him. That is how things are done. When you say that it was clear that the church, the car that was given to Anyolo was bought using resources, how did they know where the money came from? There are many people who give money to church, including myself. How do they know where the money came from? Maybe I had actually done some corruption where I work and taken. How do they know? The Bible insists that you should not judge others. And they will tell you, if you have never stolen any public resources, be the first one to cast stone. Anyway, nevertheless, the Catholic Church must be fair, and not only fair, be seen to be fair. If they condoned it during Kibaki and during Uhuru, they must go slow and point it out without frothing in the mouth that, this guy is doing this or that, when just 1 year earlier, the same thing was done by a sitting president, and they said nothing. Fanya Mambo, I'm growing to be brutal with the truth as time goes. When you list for us Nelson Wairimu, Presbyterian, Catholic Church, one thing is common to all of them: their leadership. How come the SDA Church is never doing this thing? How come the Anglican Church is never doing this thing? How come these evangelical churches, not led by people from the mountain, are not being brutal on the president? What is happening here? These people do not believe any other Kenyan should be president. That is the truth. And there are very many Kikuyus who are very fair, who knows Kenya is for all of us, a Kalenjin can be president, and do you know, even President Uhuru Kenyatta had no intention of supporting Raila to be president. Do you know that? His intention was to become an executive prime minister. And that is why he insisted on BBI to increase the number of MPs, which was skewed. In Raila's backyard, there were to be only 2 MPs out of the 70. But when BBI was shot down, President Uhuru Kenyatta stopped supporting Raila. Even the Mount Kenya he promised to take him, he never took him there. In fact, he was now leading him into places where they could jivinjari, dance, and drink. So he had no intention. His intention was to remain in power. When he discovered it couldn't remain, he believed it would be easier to remove President William Ruto, because if they were going to use the streets, President William Ruto, people are not very many on the streets. In the streets of Nairobi, he was supported by the mountain. Some of the things even done by those leaders from the mountain, even you from there, you may not understand the game plan. Now I'm revealing to you the game plan, because you have been pushing me to reveal the game plan of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He had no intention of making Raila Odinga the president that he was. He wanted to make Raila Odinga the president that could not appoint cabinet. The cabinet was going to be appointed by Uhuru Kenyatta after being elected by parliament, which he was going to make sure he had a majority of MPs in. When that failed, he gave up the support for Raila. That is the truth. And then, this idea that because there were different people saying the Gen Zs are being funded by this, another one saying funded by that, that is neither here nor there. What is serious is who was behind it. It doesn't matter who funded it. When you lead a coup, it doesn't matter who funded you. When you lead a coup, it doesn't matter who supported. It is the person behind it. And this coup is very clear. It was clear to me from such a long time ago. And I would like you people who understood what was said in Limuru 3 to tell the public, defend it in public. Because you are burying your heads in the sand, believing that the rest of Kenyans did not understand the language that was used, so it can pass. It will not pass. No. It will not pass. And then, see, you know, when Fanya Mambo tells us that, even in disco, sometimes they stop the music and say Ruto must go, even in weddings. Those weddings are only in Limuru, they are only in somewhere around Embu, they are only in Karatina, they are only in Madeira. Those weddings are not in Migori, they are not in Pwani, they are not in Kwale, they are not in Bomet. Those weddings are there. Because those people have been captured, they have been lied to. In fact, they are very good people. And to tell you they are very good, those people voted for President William Ruto to the last man. They were good. But Kumbe, the person who was President William Ruto's best man in this wedding, was eyeing the same woman. He was going to have Ruto get away, and he takes it. And this is the problem. He chose the wrong best man in this wedding. And this best man has tried to convince the bride again and again. And the bride is confused. The Mount Kenya has been confused. Because tell the Mount Kenya people, they stand a better chance of the presidency if they rally behind Ruto to finish his 10 years. But I can tell you, when you see what used to happen in Migori, what used to happen in Kondele, is now happening in Limuru, is now happening in Embu, you can be sure they will also be fighting from the opposition benches very soon. No. Our time in the opposition is over. We have finished our term there. We are not going back, because the government is for all of us, and we must be in it equally and equitably.
Because of time, we are told time is our enemy. If you could give a short regional to what he has indicated, and then also the issue of these politicians, especially members of the National Assembly and governors, having images in taxpayer-funded projects, and then a member of the audience has said whether, in fact, we have material facts if Archbishop Anyolo, in fact, returned the car. Okay.
One thing is, you see, the politicians cannot claim to be there, or cannot put a name in what was bought by the taxpayers' money. And there is a mentality that has to really to be changed by Kenyans, that, when someone builds a school with the CDF, they say so-and-so ametengeza shule. We should say, sisi tumetengeza shule. Manake hizo pesa nzetu, si zake. Sasa watu lazima wazoe kwamba whatever we see is CDF, is public, ni yetu. And if somebody puts a name that is not the Nasia Pesaki, we take out the name and even the face. Because this is something you have made these people to believe. And they're giving a reason which is fake, I can say. They say, you know, people, when you go to a constituency, people, they want us to give them money, they want us to distribute the money. No, that is not a reason for you to claim what is not yours.
Is it something that the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops will take up in the next pastoral letter?
For sure they'll mention it. And also, they've been talking about it before. For example, there was a time last year and this year, they talked about stewardship. And that was not commented upon, no? They talked about stewardship. And how I wish the government was responding to the letters of the bishop the way they did with the last one. Because you would really not have the need of this letter. If they'd been responding to the others of before, the way they did with this one, we would not have been where we are. So actually, the other thing is the politicians should not think that they own the space. And I'll repeat the word, they're simply stewards. They've been put there by the Kenyans, and they can be removed by the Kenyans. We delegated power to them, not our hearts or our brains and so on, no. Something which could be taken back. And if they want our advice, which they always say that we should advise them, they should be ready to listen even when we tell them what they don't want to hear. No? And this will keep on saying more and more. Because I'll say clearly, the bar that the bishop have put, we are not going down. No? We shall go more and more. Yeah? We shall be more and more radical because we cannot just look when things are not going on well. And I'll repeat it, we are not after any votes, no, or popularity, no. What is wrong, no. I mean, it is a fact that life is becoming expensive in this country. It's a fact that things are not the hospitals, for instance. We were told a week ago that money will be disbursed the next day, no. Now the next day, haijafika mpaka leo, manake nimeuliza our hospitals hazijapata hizo pesa. That 8 billion that's supposed to come to the country, it hasn't reached. So when the bishop says that stop lying, but you're still lying again. Yeah.
Okay, Fanya Mambo, I hope you will not be lying in your responses.
Very quick one. First, he spoke about that some of these things that Ruto must go are only happening in Mount Kenya. Let me inform you. On Friday, there was a South Rift UDA charter for youth in Kericho. Just check it on your phone. Mwakachukua young people, they mobilized them. In Kericho, they paid them. They branded them yellow. They put them in UDA. Aki, I just want you to see what they were saying in that hall and the songs they were singing and what they were telling their own administration. Look at what is happening in Mombasa. Young people, anytime they have a chance to gather anywhere. Na unaona si wa Kikuyu, unajua Mwarabu mtaona tu mtoto Mwarabu Mswahili. Utamuona tu whether you like it or not. And they are saying UDA must go. Ruto must go. In fact, nowadays they don't mention the first name. They call him must go. Usually say must go is coming or must go is... Look at Jichopevu. Look at the troubles he's having in his own place. He goes, there's a meeting, and the minute he stands up, they say, no. You're a Ruto guy, you're not going to address us. If Jichopevu's constituency is in Murang'a, then I agree with him. I have told you these are people who are refusing to accept that they have cancer. And they keep saying cancer iko na watu wengine. Let me tell you, when it hits you and it bites you, you will not be treatable because you've denied and refused to accept that you have a condition. They tried in Bomas iko Mount Kenya. They brought young people there, branded them with t-shirts. They were the ones who, in fact, Itumbi was ashamed. They were telling him Ruto must go, and they're in UDA colors. So those are Mount Kenya youth. They are the only ones who could have gone to Bomas because Nairobi is not cosmopolitan. This thinking that they are not sick is what will make them never get healed. Now, he talked about sharing resources equitably because he was talking about being in governance. The conversation I want us to start having is let us list the 47 counties and let us list how much they are bringing in on-source revenue. We must start having a serious conversation about what counties are bringing to the table. It's always about how much we are dividing and how much we are splitting. A time has come in this country when we say, now let us have an honest conversation about how we are dividing the resources and also about where they are coming from and how they, look at Narok, for example. Masai Mara is bringing a lot of resources to this country. And when we are dividing, let's have a bias and say, for once, the people of Narok, because of how much they bring in and what Masai Mara is bringing, let us have a bias in how it's shared. Because the current formula doesn't address that. We have to start having a conversation as a country on how resources are getting into the national basket. What sectors of this economy are bringing more resources to the national basket? And those who are making noise about it, they know. They never want us to have a conversation about sources of revenue. They just want us to have a conversation about division of revenue. Because when we have a conversation about sources, then the division mathematics will become impossible. You need homework, and Kenyans don't like homework. I don't like the idea of latrines with a politician's photo, but it's good. Let me tell you. If you make a classroom, that's an idea of a politician to make a classroom. So if you do many classrooms, then you have many classrooms that are full of children. So your ideas are full of children. Now apply the same if you do latrines. Your ideas are full of whatever.
What are you saying?
So it's true. You just say that his ideas are full of those things that are put there.
And you're sitting next to a priest.
But it's human. I mean, that's what's contained in those places. That's why I didn't even want. Kama Wakikuyu usema mtu mwerevu hana njia mingi za kupewa maneno. Unampea tu half the story kwa kwingine anamaliza the conversation. There was something serious that was said about Kenyatta family land. And I've always told Odoyo here. If the former president Kenyatta was your father, and you wake up one morning and you find your father has all that wealth, you as Odoyo, what would you do? You go to his grave and tell him, my father, what do you do with this land? I think you need to put yourself in Uhuru's shoes and ask yourself, when you wake up and you find your father has got the amount of land that he has, do you go and acquire more or do you start giving out? And he has given to churches, as you said, you've admitted. I remember he gave 8,000 acres of land somewhere in the coastal region to people who were squatters and all. He has gotten himself in a place where he's thinking, first and foremost, this is too much. This is way too much. I don't need this. And he has had a difficult problem, I can tell you, trying to convince his own mother that we don't need all this land and let's find ways to start looking for ways to get rid of it. But from where I sit, I also don't like where he is because he found that land in the family. It's like you find your father has got 10,000 acres. Then what do? You start telling him he was bad and your mother is alive. You start telling your mother, look, we need to. You can't, so he's in a very precarious position. I think let's judge Uhuru Kenyatta from the amount of land that he has acquired as a person since he became a public officer. How much has he stolen? From who? How many people has he killed to acquire land? Sitaki kuongea mambo ya Ndabibi, sitaki kuongea mambo ya Soweto, sitaki kuongea juu ya some atrocious things we are happening today where you see a 90-year-old man wanatolewa kwa shamba yao Ndabibi na MP wao. This MP, by the way, I get very angry with her, coming to tell her own constituents that this land, na anasema on microphone, belongs to the President William Ruto. That MP is insane because she was born there, she was brought up there, she knows that community. She's seeing 90-year-old people whose grandfathers have been buried there, and one 90-year-old tulikuwa tunashinda tukienda hapa industrial area na Chegema Juice and a few advocates kujaribu kumtoa. Yani they were so ashamed of grabbing Ndabibi land, they had to bring those old people to be tried in industrial area. They can't try them there because there are no courts in Naivasha and Nakuru. That was a very painful experience. And the MP comes and says, telling her own constituents that hii shamba ni ya William Ruto. That MP, and now she can't even step in her own constituency. The MCA who was fighting for that land was telling them, look here, I am born here. My parents were born here. My grandfathers were born here. The old man who is 90 has buried his father here. He's being taken to a court in industrial area. So if Uhuru was doing such atrocious things when he was in power about land, then we would fight him. And I have always said, let's not spare thieves. Let's not spare people who are doing the wrong things. But on this particular one, he found land that he has no idea what to do with it. And it was in the family. And I sometimes put myself in his shoes and ask myself, what would I do, by the way?
You'd go to the beach. Now, Father Jonas, to give your final remarks, a member of the audience has said that one of you is giving theories and imaginations that are not anchored in facts. So he's alarmed that that is the state of politics. So let's start with your concluding remarks.
That's why I always say, and I'll repeat, when we give certain facts, it's important to back them up with something. For example, I cannot talk about the system of collecting funds in the church without quoting any document. Even I myself, as Father John, I cannot say that the church you do this and this. I'll need to say, where does it come from? And many times people make mistakes. They say the wrong things about the church. And you see, this is just to be, it's a popular thing. But what is not true is not true. Whether it's popular or not is not true. So what I would really like to say is that we as a Catholic Church, and I'll say it again, that we will keep to what is right. It doesn't have to be popular. But we know that there are many people who want to listen to this voice. Today we are beginning a very important season of Advent, a season of hope. And what we shall be saying these days, despite all this situation, is a difficult situation that Kenyans are going through. We shall pull through. The good is coming. Because, when God is among us, no human being can defeat God. And even if you use the name of God to do what is not godly, you'll just collapse. And we are sure that God is among us, and I want to tell Kenyans that God is working with us. And in the end, the right thing shall be done.
Fanya Mambo, because I'd like Will to be the last one. You really made some statements and you love the last word.
I think from where I sit, Kenya Kwanza is sick, very sick. And Kenya Kwanza needs to accept that they are sick. That's when they will begin to heal. We have an administration that keeps thinking that every other person who is pointing at them is tribal, is malicious, is bad, he hates them, is jealous, does not think they are supposed to be in power. No, if I come and tell you you have cancer, I am not jealous, I'm not malicious, I'm not being tribal. There is just an abnormal growth of cells in your body that you need to face, you have. And then you need to accept that you need to go into theater or into chemotherapy. And then we deal with that malignant gene. And then you start seeing things like every other normal person. Because you cannot be the only person who thinks that every other person in the country is mad. You're the only one who is normal. So Kenya Kwanza is sick. They need help. And if now we are going to pray for them, let us just start to praying for them to see. Advent is also a journey into yourself. To start taking a journey into themselves and asking themselves, could we be wrong somewhere? Is it possible? Is there a likelihood that we may be wrong? And what can we do about it? I think that's all I can tell them. They are sick and they have refused to accept. And that's why we are here. The day they'll accept they have serious cancer, stage 4, and they need help, then they will start recovering.
Owidi, Fanya Mambo says that you need a physician now, and if not, you'll be needing a pathologist.
Yeah, that is his opinion. This is an opinion discussion. Fanya Mambo, you are right, but sometimes, as you said, even a dead clock says the correct time once or twice. Sometimes have a good word for the government. Sometimes I find it hypocritical to say life is becoming expensive, as if it wasn't expensive before 2022. Let us be factual. Why I keep on referring to the back? Because deep in my heart, I see a bias in the way the current government is being criticized compared to the past ones. And that is where I draw the tribalism we are talking about. You are telling us how in Kericho they mobilized, paid and branded and then told them to. That is exactly what happens. These people who are saying Ruto must go, they are being mobilized, organized, branded, and they are sometimes using artificial intelligence. In fact, they are sometimes even changing the colors people wear, remove soundtracks from somewhere else and bring on a video from elsewhere and spread it to other people. So let's be ready for the long haul. We cannot share resources of Kenya going by where they came from. Then we have no business having a unitary state. we have no business having a united Kenya. We must bring all Kenya together. Because, say, take for example, you say Narok brings a lot of money. It is from natural resources that are there, that are inside the Republic of Kenya. And sometimes, the people who are protecting that wealth that is there are coming from Mount Kenya, are coming from coast. So let us treat Kenya as a unitary state. Whatever we get, we put in one pot and share so that all parts of this country grow. For example, Kiambu. Kiambu has really grown in economy, not entirely because of the natives. Rwanda is in Kiambu, but the people who have developed there, who are paying taxes, they are not necessarily the natives. So, Githurai and such places, some of the people there are coming from other parts. But if you want to take resources from there and only take it to Kiambu, you are going to get it wrong. About the Kenyatta property, my friend, when Jomo was grabbing that, in fact, when I was talking about Kenyatta, I was talking about the old one. The Catholic Church was in existence. What did they say? And when this money that you purportedly say it was Jomo who grabbed it is being taken to church, does that erase the fact that it was grabbed? It is still grabbed. The only does that the person taking it and the person who grabbed it are different. But if a grabbed resource is wrong in the Catholic Church, it does not matter who grabbed it. So,
but is there evidence of grabbing?
Where?
You're talking about.
Of course, there's no evidence of buying, so the only other option is grabbing. In this country, don't we have people who have been told to surrender the wealth they have because they cannot prove where they got it?
Okay.
Yes, so they cannot prove where all that got it. So let us be fair to all Kenyans, and I can tell you for free, if we do not learn to share the resources of this country equitably, we'll be sharing other things. Kenya is for us all, and we must share everything equally and equitably. Thank you.
Fanya Mambo, Father John, Kevin Owidi, thanks for creating time. That has been Fireside. See you next week. Asante sana.